Hi everybody. Today I'm here with Tina Cordova. She is the co-founder of the Tularosa Basin Downwinders Consortium and the co-founder or co-owner of Queston.
Co-owner.
Co-owner of Queston. And instead of me trying and failing to explain what the Tularosa Basin Downwinders are, I will let you take that away.
You bet. Thank you. So we're an organization that was founded 20 years ago to bring attention to the negative health effects suffered by the people of New Mexico as a result of being overexposed to radiation from the Trinity bomb. Our ultimate goal has always been to get our government to acknowledge and recognize that we were harmed in the process of detonating the bomb at Trinity, and then taking responsibility for that harm and including us in what's called the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, or RECA.
Okay. And could you explain to somebody as if they're dumb what RECA is?
Sure, you bet. So the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act was set in place 35 years ago, and that in 1990, and it was established to take care of the downwinders of the Nevada test site that lived in certain counties of Arizona, Nevada, and Utah, but it never included the people of New Mexico that were downwinders, although we were the first people exposed to radiation any place in the world as a result of an atomic device, a bomb. And so the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act for 35 years has been taking care of downwinders from other places, but it's never included the people of New Mexico. And for the last 15 years, we've had bills introduced in Congress to actually address that huge void that was left here and left in the bill. And so for 15 years, we've been lobbying Congress, building a coalition, working with people from all across the country and even internationally. We have been struggling to get them to recognize not just the downwinders of New Mexico, but the downwinders in places like Guam and Idaho and Montana and Colorado and all of the remainder of Utah, Nevada, and Arizona, people who've been left out for 35 years. And then special zip codes in places like St. Louis, in Kentucky, Tennessee, Alaska, places where our government enriched uranium and dumped the waste locally, but never took care of the people afterwards, never came back, just like they never have come back to New Mexico. And so the bill was passed in 1990. It's paid out about $2.5 billion in reparations since then. And I know that sounds like a lot of money, but our government has spent over $10 trillion on our nuclear program since their inception. So to get $2.5 billion to show up on a pie chart with $10 trillion as the major part of the pie chart, we have to exaggerate that $2.5 billion. It is such a minuscule amount in comparison to $10 trillion.
Yeah, that's like $2 in comparison to $1 million, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. And we just got added to RECA, or they reinstated RECA recently?
So on July 3rd of 2025, the U.S. Congress passed what's called the Reconciliation Bill, and RECA was added to the Reconciliation Bill. And for the first time ever, the program was expanded to include the people of New Mexico, the people of Idaho, all of Utah, and one more county in Arizona, but it left out a lot of people. That was signed into law by the president on July 4th. So officially, when the bill goes into effect at the beginning of this next year, the people of New Mexico will, for the first time ever, be able to apply to the program, and they gave us a 2-year extension. And this is all wonderful news. I keep calling it, the crack in the dam. It's the beginning of us really having something meaningful. The $100,000 in reparations that they will pay, I don't want to make it sound like we're not grateful for that or that isn't significant. But they took out the health care coverage, which we desperately need in New Mexico, and we'll continue to fight for that, and we'll also continue to fight for a longer extension of the program, because we know 2 years isn't going to be adequate time to get everybody in New Mexico who's been waiting 80 years for this enrolled into the program.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that have been waiting that probably aren't super aware of it.
Yeah, we have to do a lot of outreach now. We have to train people to help others get enrolled in the program. It's not some automatic, easy process. You have to document that you lived here for at least 1 year between 1942 and 1962. The time frame that they've established starts with when we first began testing radioactive lanthanum at Los Alamos, and it ends when they stopped doing the last testing at Nevada. So that's the time frame, 42 to 62. So you had to be alive and living here for at least 1 year during that time frame. You have to have one of the 19 compensable cancers. It doesn't cover all cancers. You know, so there's a qualification process. It's not just you go in, you fill out an easy form and you're in. There's a little bit more to it.
Isn't that always just the way though?
It's amazing because sometimes, you know, the way I've been feeling about it is that, I'll give you a good example. In my own family, I had 2 great-grandfathers that died 10 years after Trinity from what was called stomach cancer. They have relatives, they have grandchildren who are still alive today that would be able to apply on their behalf, but will never be able to find the documentation of their cancer. So essentially, people that have been waiting for 80 years a lot of people will not be able to find records that will substantiate the fact that they should qualify and should be included. So you're right. Isn't that the way it always goes?
Always. That's so much worse than I was thinking when I said that.
Well, and you know, it's almost like a re-victimization of people, really.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to have some people who are frustrated. I know right now that the Department of Justice, who administers the program, I know that they're very short-staffed because of all the recent cuts to budget. And so as they are short-staffed, it means they're not going to be able to process claims in a timely fashion. People are going to be frustrated. People are going to be disappointed. And we're just going to have to take it one day at a time.
Yeah. Well, and I think it would probably help, definitely, with more outreach and more people that care. Because again, like I was saying off camera, if you're from here, anywhere in New Mexico, this affects us, and like, it's hard not to care when we, just growing up, you know, at least like, if before you're 30, you know at least 3 people in your own family that have had cancer. Like, that's a weird amount.
We have an exceedingly high number of people with cancer here. We've documented that, and it's become multi-generational. And the really tragic thing about this is that for those people who were exposed to radiation, if you've been exposed, there's normally a latency period between the time that you're exposed and the time that you develop disease. But if you actually have the genetics for this, there doesn't have to be a latency period. So what we're seeing more now is children with cancer in our communities. And that's very sad. It's very concerning for me. I am the 4th generation to have cancer in my family since 1945, and now I have a niece who's 24. She was diagnosed at 23 with thyroid cancer, the same cancer I had. And you know, she just wants to be a normal 24-year-old, and she has significant health concerns now. She'll live the rest of her life having to be checked, you know, and having to be on thyroid medication and
change
having
her diet.
Oh, it's
just everything about her lifestyle is completely different. Like, I don't think it stops. And I'm sorry to interrupt you. It just stops. Like, there's no getting to do the dumb early 20-year-old stuff that everybody else got to do, for better or worse.
Well, it's interesting because I had a discussion with her about a year ago now. I had a chance to spend some time with her because she lives in California. She's going to college there. She just graduated. She got to do something normal. She graduated from college. Woo! It was awesome. But I had a dialogue with her, and she said, you know what people don't realize is that when you're a young adult and you get cancer, it's a really strange place to be, because if you're a child, your parents take care of everything. You're living at home. you're under the care of your parents. Everything's taken care of for you. You normally have very solid health care coverage. You have the safety net of home. But if you're a young adult, you may not have health care coverage. You don't have that safety net unless you return home. If you're going to college like she is, you can't just stop and go home. So she said, when she actually went to, a camp for other young people like her, young adults who have cancer, and she said, it's amazing. We have a different set of issues as young adults dealing with cancer than somebody like you. You're like our age, my age. And so I had never thought about it.
Yeah.
I had never thought about it. I mean, when I got cancer, I was 39 and I was in an established career. I had health insurance, and so it was difficult, but I had a different set of issues to deal with than she had to deal with.
Yeah.
Young adults really aren't supposed to get cancer, so we don't have like a mechanism for naturally addressing it.
Yeah. I hadn't even considered that.
I hadn't either until she brought it up. And so we're seeing more young people now with cancer. That's very concerning for me. I tell people all the time, I worry a lot about my son and my grandsons because I know they have the genetics for this on both sides of their family. And those of us who do this work, we all say the same thing. We know that our families are not immune. My niece that has cancer, her dad, my youngest brother, I have two brothers, he just got diagnosed with kidney cancer. So it's like this ongoing. Somebody's diagnosed, somebody dies. Somebody's diagnosed, somebody dies. And it's just ongoing in our families. And my family's not unique. I interact with families just like mine all the time who are dealing with it pretty much, day in, day out.
Yeah. Yeah. And my family's got it too.
Mm-hmm.
My grandma on my dad's side had cancer and my mom had cancer.
Yeah.
So
I'm so sorry because it's not easy to deal with these things, and it's not easy to think in terms of like long-term, how do I want to put this? What I know has happened with us in New Mexico, and I say this pretty often, we've learned to use our faith and humor to deal with the really difficult set of cards we've been dealt.
yeah, I would agree
We
with
have
that.
to turn to our faith all the time, and we have to live with a lot of humor.
Yeah.
We have to find the humor in things and the goodness in things and count our blessings because it's amazing.
Yeah.
When I talk to people from other places and I tell them about my family history, people are just amazed. They just can't believe it. And I tell them, yeah, but that's not unusual in New Mexico. What I'm telling you is not unusual in New Mexico.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Speaking of New Mexico, and unfortunately all of this cancer stuff, you have a documentary about you and the Tularosa Basin Downwinders. I'm wearing the t-shirt for that.
Yep.
Is there anything you can tell us about that? And maybe when more people might have a chance to see it.
There's this wonderful, amazing documentary called First We Bombed New Mexico, produced by Lois Lippman. That's made its way to film festivals all across the country. It's winning awards. We get standing ovations. It's packing theaters. They're having to add additional screenings. It's doing very, very well. It's difficult to watch this documentary and not feel anything. Most people are moved to strong emotions about it. Most people tell me, how did I not know this history? I always tell everybody it's the entire history that Oppenheimer, the movie, never addressed. And it's just as important, if not more important, than the history they did address.
Yeah.
So, especially for those of us in New Mexico. So the documentary right now, we're in the process of trying to get distribution for the documentary. We need a streamer. We need a Netflix or, an Amazon or one of these other big streamers to come forward and buy it from Lois and get it out there so that everybody across the world can see it.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure it was still
No, that's
going.
fine. And it's a beautiful documentary. People can contact, they can go to firstwebombnewmexico.com and they can see about any upcoming screenings. They can also request a screening, and there is a license fee that goes along with that has to be paid, but we're getting requests now from all over. So the screenings that are upcoming will be listed at the website, and that's the best place for people to go see what's coming up next.
Okay. I think if you're from New Mexico, well, anywhere really, but it's more important for us, watch it.
Yeah, please.
Watch it. You'll feel feelings. I'm a grown man and I shed some tears. Watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we talk about in the documentary that's very difficult for me, maybe it's been the hardest part for me, is to know that we lost babies that summer in record numbers, and these babies were poisoned by that bomb. And I always say, I've traveled the whole state talking to people in communities all across the state. I don't know of anybody that died the day of Trinity, but it was the beginning of the end for tens of thousands of people that I know of. And that included lots of babies that died that summer. We went from losing something like 30 babies per thousand to losing over 100 babies per thousand.
Whoa.
And so the government's never come back to in any way address that. And that's really some of the hardest history that we've learned in doing our work.
I had a question. Oh, man.
So we have lots of big events coming up now for
Yeah.
the 80th anniversary of the bomb.
Yeah.
July 16th will mark the 80th anniversary. We have this wonderful interfaith prayer service on July 13th in Albuquerque at St. Pius High School. The event begins at 2 o'clock, and I think it runs till about 4 o'clock. There'll be people there with plenty of information to share, speakers who are experts in the field of everything around nuclear development and testing. On July 12th, we have Beyond the
Back from the
Back
brink.
from the Brink. I was going to say Beyond the Bomb. We have an event sponsored by Back from the Brink that's going to be in the evening on July 12th. And then July 16th, we have a whole series of events, starting with the dedication of a sign out at the Trinity site and culminating in the evening in Tularosa with a candlelight vigil. So people can go to our website, which is trinitydownwinders.com, and all three of those events are listed there with times, locations, and all of that, and that would be the best place for people to get information.
Okay. And all of the websites to find more information for these events will be in the description. Weird that I'm saying that out loud. And can you explain a little bit about why it's super important that people should come to these events?
I think it's important for people to understand the context of where we're at right now in the nuclear history of our country and our world. I mean, I always tell people it all started here in New Mexico, which is profound when you think about it. And we've never lived a day free of nuclear threat since. And we're in a place right now where the nuclear threat is higher than ever before. And, there's all these discussions these days about, the limited use of a nuclear device. And I always tell people, guess what? We're living proof that you may survive something like that, but it's the beginning of the end for you. And so everybody should become engaged in understanding this issue, having a thorough and full understanding of this issue. There's no safe use, there's no safe test, there's no safe amount of exposure. Everybody's different. One person might respond to a low dose of radiation and have a bad outcome. One person might not respond to that at all and have any kind of negative effect. But you know, no one knows what those thresholds are, and no one knows, you know, when it's safe and when it's not. And so what I say to people is, you have got to educate yourself. New Mexico is truly a sacrifice zone. It's a place, the only place in the country where we have a cradle to grave process taking place. The cradle is the opening up of the earth and the extraction of uranium, and we have 1,000 abandoned uranium mine and mill sites across the Navajo Nation, Laguna, and Acoma Pueblo. Then we developed and tested nuclear devices here, and everybody's familiar with Trinity, but we also had 2 Plowshares nuclear tests in New Mexico, one near Farmington and one near Carlsbad in the 70s. Those tests vented radiation, never to be tracked or traced or accounted for. And we have the only place in the country where we have a permanent repository at Waste Isolation Pilot Plant. And now they're trying to bring high-level waste from nuclear plants all across the country via rail car to New Mexico to be temporarily stored here when we don't have a permanent repository for it, which means it will become permanent. And what I tell people all the time is, if you're not educated about these things, let me just say this. They tell you it's safe, and seemingly it is, but the moment it's not, it's catastrophic and they don't come back. And we're the 80-year-old living proof of that. So get educated, understand these issues, realize that there's no safe testing, there's no safe use, and that New Mexico, if you live in New Mexico, you're downwind of one of those processes. I can guarantee that.
And if that's not a convincing argument to come to these events, I don't know what is.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your time, Tina.
Of course. It was my pleasure,
Yeah,
Tom.
you.
Thank you.